Hello team, yet again it's Alex Gem. Welcome to the Alex Gem Experience. This podcast is about leadership today. Yes, one of the most crucial fundamental skills we all need to possess. Now, you know, when I mention the noun leadership, a lot of people think they have one of two reactions. They essentially think, right, this applies to me, in which case they would be correct. And others kind of think, oh, this only relates to business owners or people involved in management or within companies and business. So therefore, it doesn't necessarily relate to me. I'll switch off. I won't really pay attention. You'll be doing yourself a massive injustice in doing so, because leadership is everywhere. Are you living? Are you breathing right now? You must therefore develop the skill of leadership in order to live abundantly, live more fruitfully, and more fulfilled. And this is just the way it is. So, firstly, what do I mean by leadership? Yes, I'll be making some references to the world of business and how companies function and how to get the most out of your workforce, your team. But this applies everywhere. This applies to our families, our relationships, our romantic relationship. Being a leader is essential in order to influence your kids, your children. Being a leader is imperative to essentially influencing anyone. That's what it is. I mean, are you on this planet? Yes, you are. Do you interact with human beings? Yes, me too. Therefore, we need to develop the skill of leadership. And that's another misunderstanding that I want to dispel here. Like, a lot of people think that leadership, some people are natural born leaders, and that it's, you are born with this kind of mechanism. And I distinctly remember reading a very interesting book. I definitely recommend it to you all. Elizabeth Puttick wrote a very interesting book entitled 7 Personality Types. And as I was analysing them, and even though I can see myself in several of those personality types, I couldn't help but wanting to be the king, they essentially call it. So the king is essentially a leader in many ways. They are naturally born leaders. And I do think that some skills and aptitudes are innate within us all. I do think we're born with some kind of, biologically, genetically from our parents and so on and so forth. We are gifted with certain abilities, both physical capabilities and also mental capabilities in this instance as well. And I do think there is some truth to that. And so when I was reading this book, I was thinking, damn, I wish I had even more skills that fall into the king personality type, because it's quite a cool personality type to possess, really. And so, yes, leadership can be an innate skill that, you can see in children, like when they start to tell people what they want and where to go, and they start to direct and orchestrate things. You can kind of see this type of leadership at such a young age. But leadership is a skill, and all skills are teachable, and we can learn to be even better leaders. So I don't care who you are, where you're from, what your background is, what your gender is, your orientation, your political beliefs, your religious beliefs, all these sorts of things. It's irrelevant. You can become an even better leader. And after this podcast, you will have the knowledge and the wherewithal to go out there and develop these skills. And it's going to take a lot of effort, because there's so much that goes into this. Like, being a leader means, being able to get yourself into peak performance. I'll be talking about these things in greater depth later on. Getting yourself into peak performance, peak state, being able to influence yourself, being able to influence others, being able to build rapport with others. I've done a podcast separately on that already. So definitely check out that How to Build Rapport. Beautifully, meticulously broken down the different concepts and the different submodalities involved in how to build rapport with someone, how to garner respect, and so on and so forth. So I recommend checking out that podcast that I've done previously. But yes, this podcast is about becoming a better leader, a more effective leader. And so let's dive in. So now that I've outlined that I haven't given examples yet. So I know at the offset I said that leadership applies in all areas, but let me be specific. Like, if you are you can supplant the word leadership with the synonym both influence, but also persuasion. The art of persuasion is a key component, not everything to do with leadership, but it is a key component. And we need to coax ourselves, and we need to be able to influence others in order to get them on board with our vision and really execute at our best and really challenge ourselves and step outside of our comfort zones. And I've done another podcast on that as well. So how to step outside of your comfort zone, go check that one out as well. Again, very meticulously broken down. Some examples of leadership and how to exhibit leadership. So what do I mean by leadership? Getting out of bed in order to do things exhibits leadership. You need to be able to convince yourselves, which means effectively having certain thoughts. Those thoughts drive certain emotions within us, certain chemicals in our brains get released. And those chemicals, if they're strong enough, if the emotions are strong enough, it will bring about certain actions, whether we like these actions or not, based upon our pleasure and pain principle. And I'll probably touch upon that a bit later on as well. And so to get out of bed requires some level of motivation and therefore some kind of leadership ability, right? So we need to be able to exhibit leadership throughout our day-to-day lives. We also need to exhibit leadership in order to go to the gym and to train to stay strong and healthy. We need to exhibit leadership when there's something we know we need to do, but we don't necessarily have the energy to do it or the wherewithal to do it for one reason or another. Maybe we're exhausted. Maybe we are not in the right frame of mind. Maybe we've become imbalanced and knocked out of homeostasis because of stress that's been happening in our personal and or professional lives for that matter. So all of these components do play a role, but leadership is seen everywhere. I mean, you have to be able to convince your children to stay on the right path, to not go into the world and be influenced by their peers, to do drugs or to, get caught up in silly, sinful behaviors that can really lower their self-esteem and make them feel chaotic and depressed and all these sorts of things. So we're always leading our children. You might be leading your siblings. You might be even leading your parents and showing your parents the way on how to live or how to do certain things, right? We are always leading people. We might be leading our friends, and that might be leading our friends to make better choices, whether teaching them about different ways of investing, where they can invest to improve their wealth. You might need to convince your friends to kind of get in better shape or to overcome an addiction, in which case, again, you are persuading, influencing, therefore leading them, right? Does this make sense, guys? And obviously, we know the more applicable examples and the more prevalent examples of leadership, such as how to motivate your team, your workforce, how to generate more sales, or how to grow a bigger audience, working on branding, marketing, sales, negotiation, developing high income skills and all these sorts of things. And that's what leadership is about. And the best leaders are leaders who do one of two things. Firstly, they're not motivated by fear. And that's a key component, because one of the massive chokeholds on businesses is the psychology of the leader. I mean, if you're operating in a team, and I mean within your family or within your community, you're supporting a cause, or you're leading a charity maybe, or you're a leader of a department, or you are the talent within a company, the artist, if you will. Or if you are the manager, the leader, essentially, we need to be able to influence ourselves, and our psychology is crucial, because others will look to us for guidance. And if they see that you are inconsistent with your vision, inconsistent with what you're saying, what your messages are, what you're communicating, if one day you're communicating confidence and assertiveness, and you're saying this is what we need to do for our long-term vision, and then the next day you're like, oh my God, something's changed, guys, and then you're kind of stifled, you seem a bit lost, you seem a bit chaotic, all over the place. These are inconsistent messages, and if you come across as an inconsistent leader, you won't inspire trust, you won't inspire greatness because your own workforce, your own team, your own family will be doubting you, whether knowingly or unknowingly, from your perspective. So leadership is about consistency. Leadership is about stepping up. And leadership is about creating leaders. And that's what the best leaders in the world do. They want to develop their team. They want to develop leaders because they know that the only way they can really create a successful business is to create a company where they don't have to be there. And the same applies at home. Like, you want to teach your kids, your partner, your family, you want to teach them right from wrong, and also, how to succeed in life and what to look out for and different obstacles and stuff like that, so that when you're not around, say if you've gone on a trip for business, or maybe you've gone on a holiday and you're not around, you want your kids, your partner to be loyal, to be trustworthy, to do the right sort of things even when you're not there. And that's the sign of a leader. That's the difference between a leader and a manager. A leader is able to make sure that their workforce works at the same kind of abilities when you're there, and either performs at that same kind of ability or steps it up a notch when you're not there. That's how you know if you are a true leader or if your team perceives you as just being a manager. There is a big difference between a leader and a manager. And unfortunately, a lot of situations and scenarios in the workplace and at home consists of, if the cat's away, the mice will play, so to speak, using that idiom. Metaphorically speaking, we're essentially saying that in many instances, if the manager's not in for one or not around for one reason or another, the workforce will take it down a notch. They'll relax. They won't work as hard. They won't challenge themselves. They won't be as motivated. They'll be easily distracted and these sort of things. And this is an easy way to tell whether you are a manager or a leader. And there's so many different ways that you can test that. As a teacher, I used to do this. I used to be an English teacher. And what I used to do was I'd very briefly leave the room to pretend to, I don't know, get a book or some exercise books for kids, or to gather a few pens because some students forgot their pens or something like that. And what I'll do is I'll turn the corner and pretend I had to go and quickly get something for like 30 seconds or what have you. And really, once I left the room and turned to the side and I was out of their vision, I didn't go to get anything. I just stood there and I just wanted to listen to what was going on in the room, because I wanted to see, not necessarily to see who was focused and not focused, like that's important as well, but I just wanted to pay attention of how they function when I'm not there. And more so, it was a reflection on my ability to lead as a teacher in that instance. And, I do the same, you could do the same sort of things with your home life. Like, if you have to leave for a work reason, or you're going out and, like your wife or your husband, your partner's left in the house, and, with your kids and these sort of things, like you can get them to like pay attention to how their kids kind of change their behaviors when you're not around. Just it's very telling, very revealing as to how you're perceived by your team in these instances. And the same applies to business as well. Like sometimes it's good to literally not be in and see how, do your team members, your workforce leave early when you're not in, as opposed to how they would feel or behave right in front of your face. Do they lower their standards? Do they not complete tasks and reach deadlines when you're not in? These sort of things. It is important. It is good to test your teams to really see your influence and how profound your impact, how profoundly you impact your team, really. So that's a great little strategy that I like to utilize in many different aspects within my life. And yeah, this is what leadership is about. Leading people in companies, leading people in your family, leading people in communities. That's what leadership is about, being a great role model. And you can only be a great role model, not by just saying things and doing the opposite things. I mean, for example, like we at this moment in time, we're living through the pandemic, the coronavirus, and constantly in the news. It's quite hilarious, but it's also quite telling in terms of what people's characteristics are like. all these examples are coming out of like celebrities and soccer football stars and politicians who say things like, listen, stay at home, keep people safe, save lives. They give these messages, and then behind the scenes they're driving around getting involved in accidents or going and getting caught by police, like driving unnecessarily for no valid reasons and these sort of things. And you know, these are people who aren't leaders. They aren't role models because they don't practice what they preach. And this is how to tell a true leader from someone who's just a talker. And, you know, we have to self-reflect here. Like, are you just a talker? Or do you just know things and say things in your life, but really deep down you do the opposite? Or do you put your money where your mouth is, metaphorically speaking? Hopefully not literally, for that matter. Like, do you do what you say? If you, like me in this podcast, like this is, the things I'm telling you are things that I do in my life. They are practices that I preach. They are things that I do. Not necessarily always, because no one's perfect. But these are things that we need to get used to. And if you think to yourself, whilst I'm doing this podcast, people listening to me right now, if you're thinking to yourself, you know what, Alex, like I can't sometimes do the things that I tell others to do, but I'm not as consistent as I'd like to be, then this is a great opportunity for you to self-reflect on your ability to lead your family, your team, your peers, your colleagues, your businesses, your society. And to really reflect upon how much of an influence you have on people, how much of a role model you really are. Because it's quite possibly the most significant skill needed to lead. It's the ability to be a great role model. You want people to be able to look to you and you want to be that go-to person in certain areas. No leader is perfect. No one's expected to be phenomenal in lots of different areas in life. But you do need to become a master in a key area or a couple of key areas within what you're leading in. Does that make sense? So you could be a master of persuasion, you could be a master of selling, you could be a master of negotiation, you could be a master of relationships, you could be a master of developing certain products or creating certain services, you could be a master in creativity and innovation, you could be a master in terms of your energy, your focus, your drive, your consistency, like skills, aptitudes, like what do you specialize in, what are you known for? And within your corporation, and largely in society, where we want to be is we need to become the person that everyone, this is what branding is, right? You need to become the person who everyone thinks of. Like if I said to you, computers, you think of Steve Jobs and Apple, right? If I said to you, peak performance, you probably think of Tony Robbins, right? If I said to you business, you probably think of someone like Grant Cardone or Gary Vee. Do you know what I mean? These are the sort of things, this is how we operate. And you want to get to a point where if someone says your industry that you're currently working in, they need to think of you. And if they're not yet, then that means, well, that should be our vision. You know, we should be aiming to be the best. You know, another metaphor is, you know, aim for the stars and at least you'll hit the moon as a worst case scenario. And it's all about setting high standards and going for the best possible situation. And either way, you'll achieve massive accomplishments and you'll succeed in your endeavors. Whether you achieve your exact vision or not, time will tell. And so this is what leadership is about, guys. Leadership is about stepping up, being consistent, being a role model. And it starts with influencing ourselves. So let's touch upon that for a moment. Influencing ourselves is all about getting ourselves to take action, knowing how to motivate oneself. This takes great emotional intelligence. Now, if you are to lead yourself, being a great leader means being professional. Being a great leader means being disciplined. And you know, every single human being will experience different moods, attitudes on a weekly basis, right? Some days we wake up and we feel unstoppable. We're like, you know what? I feel so energized. I feel so passionate. I've got so much enthusiasm. Let's go. Let's kill it. Let's do our best today. And then sometimes you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I feel so lethargic. I don't even want to get out of bed. Like, I don't want to do all those things today. Like, this is human nature. We are human beings. We're not robots. But the key is to step up no matter what. And the best, and by the best I mean the leaders, true leaders, always find a way to do things and do what they need to do. For example, every single Monday, I produce a podcast. Every single Tuesday, I produce a blog. And I have this kind of system every single day. And developing discipline, developing your self-esteem, being a leader is about being consistent. And sometimes when I'll do a podcast like what I'm doing with yourselves now, I feel great. I feel phenomenal. I feel really energetic. I feel passionate. I feel like I can talk for 2, 3, 4 hours. And sometimes I'll start the podcast. I'm like, I'll do my best to change my physiology, my emotional state. But I know that something's amiss. Something's not quite there. Maybe I didn't sleep as well as I could have the day before. Maybe something has caused some kind of stress, and maybe I was too immersed in my egoic mind and too identified with my mind, the ego, with my problems of the past or my challenges that I'm going to be facing in the future. I'm not as focused as I should be. Or maybe something's happened in terms of my nutrition. Maybe I've not exercised. Maybe I've incurred an injury, or I've gone through some kind of trauma or emotional turmoil. So maybe something's happened in my life recently. And we're not at our best. Now, the challenge as the leader is to still get the job done. Now, you don't necessarily have to be 100% at your best and deliver exceptional service and products and in this instance, the podcast. You don't have to always be at your best. Obviously, set higher standards and do your utmost. But if we're always thinking to ourselves, I have to be at my best in order to do something, well, that will lead to inertia, that will lead to inactivity, and therefore people will not take action. You know? And that's what we need to move away from. We instead need to condition ourselves to always step up, to always do our best, to be consistent. And more often than not, we'll actually end up doing better than we envisioned when we simply force ourselves to do things. And we simply become more present. So whenever you feel like you're not in the zone, you're not in your element, maybe something's amiss, really what we need to do is we need to become more present. Maybe we're identifying with the mind. We're too preoccupied with our status, our reputation, our perceptions. Maybe there's too much chaos in the mind because of our ego, over-identifying with our ego, being overly identifying with time, with what happened earlier in the day or last week or last month, maybe an argument, some form of conflict. Or maybe we're thinking about the future and we're like, oh my God, what if I don't do this as well as I could have? What will that mean to me in the future? And we're kind of getting our own way, essentially. And the key to succeeding is actually thinking less, but being more present. And that's one of the main things about peak performance and getting at your best and channeling yourself and performing at your best is becoming more present and breathing and focusing, bringing consciousness and awareness to your breathing within every single inhale and exhale that we do is a brilliant way to go from the ego to being present. To go from fear to love. To go from chaos to peace. Okay? And that's what presence enables us to do. It will enable us to flow, to speak freely, to be at our best. All right? And in speaking of influencing ourselves, we are all motivated by different things, right? So we all have an emotional home or a couple of emotional homes. What do I mean by that? We all experience certain kind of emotions every single day because of our subconscious programming, okay? So every single day or every single week, we tend to experience 1, 2, or 3 key emotions per day or per week for that matter. Maybe sometimes we feel really excited, and sometimes throughout the week we'll get really angry, or maybe sometimes throughout the week we'll be really calm and peaceful, and then other times throughout the week we'll be really pensive and frustrated and sad. Do you know what I mean? There are certain emotions that dominate our experience. Essentially, when we experience certain emotions on a regular basis, it becomes a subconscious program. Essentially, our body performs these emotions better than our mind over time. And the key thing is is to understand, identify how we operate, and to be able to use those emotional states to drive our best. For example, some people actually perform at their best when they wind themselves up and they frustrate themselves and they get quite angry. That's what gets them to take action. Now, they might not become happy and peaceful by accessing those states, but at least they get themselves to take action. So whilst different states such as frustration, impatience, indignation, hatred, anger, bitterness, jealousy, whilst these are not the best states to make us truly thrive long term and to live abundantly and to live longer, at least they are states that get us to take action to do what we must. So essentially what I'm saying to you is, if that's how you get motivated, and it's not my preferred mechanism, that's for sure, but say if someone needs to get angry in order to take action, because anger is a strong emotion, and where there is anger, there is emotion, and where there's emotion, there is the ability to take action. Where there's emotion, there is motion. Then really it's about making ourselves angry, getting ourselves into that physiological, emotional state, and therefore they're being able to do something, take action. So identify what emotions you tend to experience. Identify what emotions get you to take action as a person. Get yourself into that state, and you can utilize a whole host of NLP-based strategies like anchoring, and I've talked that previously. I'm not going to go into that too much. Utilizing incantations when we say our thoughts, what we want, and we use our body and our gestures and our intensity in order to drive us to succeed. For example, you might say to yourself, I will give and be the best possible version so that I can help people to accomplish anything that they desire and get people to overcome their challenges and their fears today. And as I said that, this was an incantation. As you can probably sense it, I was using my body. I was speaking quite intensely, energetically, more quickly, more rapidly. And I was using my body and my gestures to kind of follow through with what I say. And that's what an incantation is. Using your emotion, using your body, using your unconscious, if you will, to instigate a certain peak state. Okay? So that's incantations. Anchoring is when over time we just... say if you imagine the time where you succeeded in business or succeeding with relationships, and when you're imagining this situation and you're vividly immersed and you're associating with the experience, at the peak of this experience, all you need to do is essentially do a small gesture, a small action. It could be to do a click, or it could be to pinch your earlobe, or it could be to pinch your fingers together, or it could be to rub your hands together, anything. But when you do this successively and repetitively over and over again, you begin to anchor that action, and you begin to associate that particular small action with a whole host of really successful memories. So when you want to motivate yourself to take action, all you need to do is do the activity, and it will get yourself into that peak performance state where you feel capable, where you feel confident, where you feel like you can access your best state and really deliver at a high level. That's what anchoring enables us to do. So anchoring, incantations, using positive, powerful vocabulary, that you asking quality questions in your mind to drive positive results rather than asking disempowering negative things. Like negative thinking is a result of inner resistance. Inner resistance is a result of identifying with the mind, with your ego, your reputation, all these sort of things like I outlined previously. So the questions you ask yourself is vital to get yourself into peak state in order to perform and be at your best. And, if you're still struggling to get into peak state after all these sorts of things, consider your why. What is your motivation? Make sure that your why is bigger than yourself. For example, if you want to succeed in business, if your why is so that you make more money or so that you are more significant or you have more power, like that's not going to propel you to take action in the long term. Because even though that might be your prevailing motivator right now, in this instant, it might not be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. In which case, your motivation will subside and dissipate over time. But in order to fuel and accelerate our energy and to proliferate our success, what we're going to need to do is to have a big enough reason. As Jim Quick says, reasons reap results. We need to have a strong why, and it needs to go above and beyond our own selfish desires. Maybe your why is to enable your children to grow and learn and succeed and to have great self-esteem. Maybe your why might be to help your business, to help your employees to grow your company so that you can recruit and employ more and more people and therefore produce more incomes, happier families, more successful families, and therefore serve more and more clients, more and more people who need what you offer for a living, right? Maybe your why is to bring a greater good and to help the environment and to end suffering for animals or humanity for that nature and for that purpose. Like, have a meaning that goes above and beyond yourself and your own needs. And that's what's going to enable you to get up and to take action. And, as I said earlier, sometimes you'll wake up and you want to do actions, and sometimes you'll wake up and you go, I don't look my best, I don't feel sexy, I don't feel powerful right now, I'm not going to look good in these videos, or I'm not going to sound good in these podcasts, or I'm not going to create and write as well as I could do. I'm not going to be able to utilize that instrument and play as well as I could do. You need to get out of yourself. You need to get away from your mind. You need to become more aware, more conscious on the greater good. And that's why people kind of get in their own way, because they're like, I'm only going to do things if I look incredible when I do them. But then that's superficial. That's being fake. That's just being preoccupied with your own self, with your egoic mind, with your conditioned consciousness, your personality. But we need to go above and beyond that, guys. And we need to access our unconditioned consciousness. And that means stepping up and doing what's best for the world, the universe, humanity. Whatever it is that motivates us. And so have a big enough why. That's something that I really, really advocate here as well. So yes, get yourself into great peak state. If you find that you don't perform at your best in really important areas in your life, for instance, if you want to lead in a certain area, but you don't feel as confident or as motivated or as happy when doing those sort of things, even though it's important, maybe you're lacking confidence, or you feel a lack, or you feel incompetent, which might be related to your ego, again, your egoic mind. What you might want to do is to practice the art of transference. So what do I mean by that? So I want you to take a moment to think about an activity that you do where you feel like you are absolutely brilliant at it. Whenever you are at your best, when are you at your mental, emotional, and physiological best when you do a certain activity? Maybe you thrive when you're at the gym. Maybe you feel incredible when you meditate. Maybe you really come to life when you perform in front of an audience for a certain reason, within a certain context. Maybe you are at your best when you help others in certain situations. I want you to think about when you perform something at a very high level. And all you need to do is pay attention to your submodalities. How do you breathe when you're in this state? How do you move when you're in this state? How do you communicate internally and or externally when you are in that zone? How do you walk around? What kind of body language do you utilize? Like, how do you deliver? How do you talk? What's your eye contact like? How do you use your facial expressions? Do you know what I mean? All these different variabilities. What you now need to do is, whenever you do something at a very high level, you need to literally, you might want to write down how you breathe, how you move, how you think, what questions you ask in your mind, how you utilize your eye contact, your gestures, and these sort of things. And literally transfer those same submodalities into the area in which you want to shine as it relates to leadership. And you will thrive, and you'll be in the present moment, and you will experience flow and really access that greater intelligence that enables us to do things that surpass our expectations. Like, have you ever done something in your life and you thought, you know what was that? That was incredible. What was going on here? How did I speak? I didn't even know I knew those words. How did I speak? And how did things flow so well? Or, How did I play that instrument so brilliantly and so effortlessly? Everything seemed to flow from one note to the next seamlessly. How did I do that? It's because you got out of your own way. You were probably thinking less and just doing. You access flow. You access that greater intelligence because you weren't in your own egoic mind. You weren't identifying with your mind. You weren't preoccupied with how are you coming across? What are people going to think of you? No, you were in the zone. And that's what you'll be able to do as it relates to leadership. So practice those skills. Good practice makes perfect. And execution trumps knowledge every single time. We need to be able to take action, guys, because simply thinking, being theoretical, objectively associating with things, that can only take us so far. We have to do things. We have to thrive and challenge ourselves and step outside of our comfort zone if we're going to grow as leaders and challenge our team to grow as leaders as well. Okay? We need to pave the way. So yes, influence yourself, but also influence others. And like I said earlier, just sip a bit of water. As I said earlier, yes, everyone operates differently. So, for example, you might personally be motivated by wanting to give more, share more, help more people, right? That might be your motivating factor. However, your colleague or your employees or your familial members, they might be motivated by different things. For example, if you want to motivate your teenager, your kid, if you want to motivate your child to clean their room, and you say to himself, listen, if you clean your room, do you know how much more relaxed you're going to be? Your kid might look at you and go, Mom, Dad, I don't care about being relaxed. That's not what I want to be doing. I don't want to be relaxed. That's boring. But to you, you might think, wow, cleaning my room would make me more relaxed. That's fantastic. More clarity, more peace of mind, better quality thinking. You know, I'll be able to accomplish more, do more, be more productive. That's what might motivate you. But to motivate your teenager, that's not the way to do it. You need to find out what motivates them. What is their why? What is their situation? What is their context? What is their scenario? How are they thinking? What are their perspectives? What are their priorities? Their priorities aren't to relax. Their priorities might be to do what they want, such as playing computer games or watching Netflix or this and that, or speaking with their friends. So you might say for example, off the top of my head, you might say to the teenager in this instance, listen, if you cleaned your room, do you know how much time that would free up for you to be able to play, to call and speak to your mates and go on social media, go on Facebook or Instagram, these sort of things, and do all these other things because you would have gotten this chore out the way. And then they'll be like, so you're telling me, Mum, Dad, if I clean my room, I could therefore, I'm allowed and I'm encouraged to go on these social platforms for longer or play my computer games for longer. Wow. Or you might say to them, you know what, if you cleaned your room, that would tell me that you are now ready for more responsibilities, my son or my daughter. In which case, if you're ready for more responsibilities, that shows to me that you're ready to start to learn about how to run our business, the family business. Or you might show to me that you deserve more money because I can trust you with more money now. Or something along these lines. They'll be like, oh, more money? Yeah, that motivates me. That's good. That's going to make me look cool in front of my friends. I can go buy this and that new fashionable clothing that I've been wanting to get for ages. That's cool. Then they'll begin to associate cleaning their room with having more money and impressing their friends. And every single person in all different contexts and situations in life are motivated by different things. Some people are motivated by feeling part of a team and therefore using certain words like us, we, together. These kind of words influence people because it makes them feel part of a troop. It makes them feel like they're working collectively towards something. Other people work better on their own, independently. But they might want recognition. Some people, for instance, need praise in order, maybe they suffered from some kind of lack in their lives. Maybe they didn't receive attention as children from their parents, and they felt emotionally and neglected. They didn't get attention. So if their own leader does not give them attention and praise when they do things well, then they're going to develop and run the same kind of patterns that they've learned since they were children, from not feeling accepted, not feeling cared for, then they're not going to go and be at their best, and they're not going to be driven to thrive more. Do you understand, guys? When you look at human beings, employees, children, yourself, like, we are conditioned responses. Most people run on their conditioned consciousness, their personalities. A personality is just things that we identify with, that comprise our identity. Our identity is made up of habits. Our habits are made up of learned attitudes and moods that we've accumulated over time. Our learned attitudes are accumulated by the beliefs that we hold. Our beliefs are built upon our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors sustained over time. And our thoughts arise because of our past experiences. And our past experiences, especially if they have a great emotional pull within us, drive our current behaviors today. Unfortunately, this is how people work. They're stuck in the past. They relive the same kind of subconscious programs and patterns on a daily basis. And by you not being able to connect with people in the right ways, it might demotivate them. It might make them less productive. It might make them careless and not feel connected to you. Because a big problem that leaders make in their lives is that they think that they can motivate their workforce when the workforce and when people know the leader. So some managers think that by talking about themselves and their experiences, that they're generating rapport. They're building a deeper connection. That's not true. You build a connection with someone when the other person feels understood. Stephen Covey has a brilliant quotation. I'm going to paraphrase it, but it essentially outlines that, people seek to be understood, not to understand others. Or essentially, I'm butchering his quotation, but seek first to understand, not to be understood. And if you want to build rapport, you need to be able to influence others. You can only influence others when they feel like you understand them and their situation, that you care about them individually. And if you cannot strike that rapport, you are not going to maximize the qualities, the skills within your team. I know it's a long-winded process. I know you're probably thinking, listen, I run a large company, or I have quite a few kids. I can't get to know them all in that kind of depth, Alex. What do you think this is? Well, then you're not going to be able to get the most out of that team. You're not going to be able to motivate them and become even more productive and therefore delegate more, because you didn't go through the hard work of getting to know them, their backgrounds, their loves, their passions, their fears, their past experiences, where they're from. And therefore there will be a lack of congruency within the team, within the workforce. You won't be working as a unit towards the same goal, because everyone will have conflicting aspirations, conflicting goals, and a lot of inner resistance. And we won't be on the same wavelength. And that creates an ineffective, dysfunctional team. So yes, learn more about your team, your kids, your community. Learn more about your peers, your familial members. Learn more about your employees, your department. Because that's the only way you're going to influence them. Because you can't influence them by just telling them what you want, what your vision is. That's a part of running a successful team. Sharing your vision, developing a certain culture, developing a shared vision, making people feel like their opinions matter and that they have a voice within your company. Because the last thing a person wants to do in a family or team or of any kind is to feel like you talk, they share their opinions, but you go and do your own thing anyway. That's not what real leadership is. And I know for personal experience, like when I was part of a team, like they'll be doing these surveys and we will have these meetings where people will be talking about and sharing their voices, their opinions, what might work, gathering new ideas, expressing their values and these sort of things. And it's just a tick box session. And you know deep down that the management's not going to actually listen to what happened at the meeting. It was just to make the team think that they had a say, to make them think like they had opinions. That's why we need to listen. And Steve Jobs really emphasized and accentuated the importance of listening to your team, in ensuring that the best ideas always won, regardless of the hierarchy within the company. If someone had a brilliant idea, you need to share that. You need to grow that. You need to embed that within the team, within the company. And you need to build their confidence and praise them for sharing such great ideas. That's what enables a team to thrive, creating leaders, making people feel like they actually have a voice. And another part of succeeding as a leader is to be able to model from other great leaders. And a lot of people misconstrue this. A lot of leaders think they have to be completely innovative, completely creative, and they put a lot of stress on and pressure on themselves to do so. And sometimes, in many ways, it's completely unnecessary. You can literally take the same systems and structures within the same kind of field as your own, as someone who's been really successful as a leader, and just copy it. As we grow up within the educational system, we're taught that, copying from others is cheating. It's not fair. It's wrong. But in the world of business and with succeeding, it's all about learning and growing and sharing and taking the best qualities of these leaders from different corporations and weaving it into and embedding them into your own company. That's all you need to do. You need to find what works from the best around you and live it and breathe it within your culture, within your team. And that, guys, is a massive, massive win. That's how we are able to lead. That's how we're able to create a unit, a team that functions together congruently. So yes, modeling is vital. Modeling in the house, in terms of what makes, you might want to read certain books. And there's a reason why, your average CEO reads, over 50 books, in many cases over 60 books every single year, whereas your standard average employee simply reads between 2 to 3 books every single year. There's a reason why this happens, guys. Reading, learning, being a lifelong learner, challenging oneself, stepping outside of your comfort zone. Because that's what creates new ideas. That's what creates innovation. That's what enables the leader to continuously grow. Learning new things, neurogenesis, activating neuroplasticity, learning new things as a leader, experiencing new things as a leader, bringing new voices into your team every single year. Even if you have a family, learning from when you go and you have family meals, with cousins or relatives, bringing new people to the table, whether it be your aunt's friend or your partner's colleague or what have you. Bring new voices to the table, hear new insights, because that's what that kind of open-minded growth mindset, as Carol Dweck puts it, will enable people to thrive, to continuously grow, to continuously lead, and to be a great role model. So look to bring new voices, new perspectives, new ideas, new notions, new questions to the table. Because that will enable you to grow. That will enable you to learn new things, to create new connections between and amongst your neurons within your brain. And when we learn things, we create new neurons. We make more and newer connections between our existing and new neurons. That enables us to have new thoughts. When we have new thoughts, we behave in different ways. We challenge ourselves more. We change our beliefs. What is a belief? A belief is just a neural network within the brain. A belief is just a thought, a pattern that's reinforced and consolidated over time. A belief is just a record of the past. Our beliefs can only be sustained from things that we've experienced in the past. We can only believe what we know so far. So when we're constantly learning new things, challenging ourselves, reading more, going to seminars, going to workshops, developing our skills, becoming accredited, developing high income skills, high leadership skills, whether it be learning how to present, learning how to do public speaking, learning how to negotiate, learning how to market, learning how to sell, learning how to develop a team, learning how to build rapport, learning NLP. Learning all these really important skills in life will make you constantly grow, constantly succeed, constantly seek more, and to change your own beliefs so that you aren't confined by your own limited perceptions and beliefs in life. And that's what's going to enable you to thrive. So yes, leaders need to specialize in key areas and to be the go-to person in that particular area. We need to develop a team so that you become a whole. Now, I said this earlier, you aren't expected to be perfect. No one is. The leader isn't expected to be perfect. We're expected to be a master in a certain area or a couple of areas as it relates to our avenue in the household and domestically, or as it relates to our company or community. But it's our duty, it's our responsibility as the leader to build a team that is whole. The team needs to be perfect. Not you, but the team needs to be perfect. And that takes self-reflection and knowing your own weaknesses. Knowing what you're very good at and knowing what you're not so good at. And hiring and recruiting the kind of people who are brilliant, outstanding in their particular avenues. Therefore, there will be no holes within your ship, so to speak. You will be able to guide and move towards your destination more competently and much more quickly because you've got a very strong team. You're ticking all the boxes that will lead to success within your business, within your family, and so on and so forth. So now's the time to step back, to challenge oneself, to honestly and truthfully identify your existing skills and areas for improvement, to develop a team, to develop a culture, to get other people's opinions, getting your children's opinions involved, getting your partner's opinions involved, listen to your friends and embedding some strategies that you think can improve your own life, and therefore communicating that you really appreciate your friendships. Learning from your competitors if you need to, researching your competitors, building the confidence within your team, encouraging their ideas, giving them praise when they deserve it. Not nitpicking, not looking for their faults within your family, within yourself, within your team. Instead, promoting success, building momentum, developing leaders within your company. Not being afraid to lose leaders, because people won't leave if they love their company. People won't leave if they feel cared for. People won't leave if they feel significant, if they feel like they have an effect and influence on the company or on the family. They will not abandon. They will not disobey. They will not betray. They will not leave if there is a bigger cause, if they feel like they are part of something brilliant and magnificent. And on that note, we'll end the podcast. Get my book, team, The Art of Power, Happiness and Success. You can get that at Amazon. You can also get it at my store, the ebook version, at www.alexgemstore.com. Go hook yourself up. It's a fantastic read. If you really, really want to delve in deep and experience some quality resources, seriously powerful resources, amazing worksheets, activities, exclusive video footage, podcast material, audio segments, get my course. It is incredible, guys. You can get it at my website at www.alexgem.com. Just click where it says join PHS course today. Enter your credit card details. You'll get instant access to this revolutionary course, step by step, taking you through this journey of becoming a better leader, developing your emotional intelligence, getting yourself to step up and perform, learning how to create and embed better quality habits and subconscious programs, changing your identity, eradicating your limiting beliefs, creating an abundant growth mindset. I'm going to teach you how to do all these sort of things. Learning how to reduce stress so that you can make better quality decisions in your life in all kinds of capacities and areas. The amount of bonuses that I've included in this course is absolutely sensational. Amazing ebooks worth $50 each, all included. I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. You're going to be astonished by the price as well. It's worth, it's taken me 15 years of learning, of reading books, of going on seminars, on my own investments in mentorships, on courses that I've gone on events that I've attended, I've condensed all this into a very digestible step-by-step process to take you to empowerment, to make you even more enlightened, to improve your self-esteem, to make you even more peaceful, tranquil, and to get the best out of yourself, to maximize your potential, and to create even more happiness. It's an incredible lifelong journey that I've condensed into this course, and it's a no-brainer. It certainly is. Go hook yourself up. Come join me at the Power Mastermind. Yes, I do events, live events. I would love to meet you, work in person with you. At the Power Mastermind, we only take 20 really committed, hardworking, driven people who are willing to delve deep. We're going to overcome your fears. We're going to drive and fuel your existing strengths. We're going to give you new actions to embed to become stronger, more successful, happier, more peaceful individuals. We're going to develop a community where you feel part of a team, where you feel valued, where you feel like you're making massive progress. And you're going to leave the Power Mastermind with a plan, with a clear plan. So you don't leave with all these you don't just leave with all these amazing ideas. You leave with a clear plan as to what you need to do. What are the next steps that's going to enable you to really make rapid progress? Because everyone can excel at a certain event when they're immersed. But what happens when you change your external environment is you change your circuitry, you change your mental, emotional programs, and you start to go back to your old ways. But not if you leave with the plan that we do at these events. Now, if you can't join us at the live events for whatever reason, I have turned it into a course. You can actually see me work with a live audience at a live mastermind. You can get the worksheets that cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. You can get these worksheets at the online course that I've presented. It's called the Power Mastermind Virtual. You can get that underneath the course that I just outlined earlier. Hook yourself up. Amazing bonuses included in that as well. Tremendous value, and make the most out of this, guys. Make sure you add me on different social platforms. I'm everywhere. Find me on Instagram. Find me on Facebook. Add me on Snapchat. I'm on Pinterest. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Happiness, Power and Success with Alex Gem. Go subscribe. Amazing content I share every single week. You're going to love the content we share there. And yeah, have a great day, guys. Maximize your potential and stay strong. I'll see you soon. Look after yourself. Bye, team.